Britain is on the brink. Ballooning debt, surging borrowing costs, tax hikes on the horizon, and new tax hikes by the day. This is all stacking the odds against prosperity. And as the finance world flashes sell signals on UK assets, my sell sign on leaving the UK remains. If you live in the UK right now, we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you should consider leaving. And I'm going to start with an article from Money Week that talks about how taxes might rise even further in the 2025 autumn budget. One of the things that I've told you for the last year, I subscribe to the Times, the Daily Mail, and the Telegraph. There has not been a day that I get the email headlines that has gone by where there is not talk of some new economic bungling, tax hikes, any of the sort. I've never seen anything like it. The entire basis of Nomad Capitalist has been to tell you how Western countries are not tax competitive. They're not friendly for entrepreneurs anymore. I have never seen anything in 13 years like what's happening in the UK. So I'm going to share with you the article from Money Week, and then I'm going to give you 5 takeaways that I think are important. This is by Katie Williams, who says, tax hikes are widely expected this autumn as weak economic growth and stretched public services put pressure on the public purse. Succotash. Beleaguered chance. And by the way, weak economic growth, jobs numbers came out. They're not doing well. Gilts, not looking good. Stretched public services. How many headlines do I read about the NHS? We don't really come and talk about that too much here because that's not the kind of channel that we are, complaining about the NHS. But bottom line is you're paying a lot of money in taxes. They want to charge you more. They want to impose new taxes. And yet what you're getting for those taxes is worse and worse. This is not just a UK phenomenon. It's a US phenomenon. It's all over the world, particularly in the West. And by the way, if you think the right wing's going to save you when they get back in power, Nigel Farage spoke at 2 of our Nomad Capitalists Live. He says, hey, I'm going to fix everything. Well, look at what Republicans in the United States are saying. They want to impose cuts on rich people. They want to take advantages. Oh, you paid into Social Security? You know what? We're going to take it away from you because you made too much money. That's not what the right wing's supposed to do, protecting your tax dollars. So I think there's really nowhere in the West to go, which is why you ought to go where you're treated best and look at the places that we talk about in all the tax-friendly countries around the world. Nomadcapitalist.com/apply if you want our help. Beleaguered Chancellor Rachel Reeves has, is she the one who's, I can't keep track of who's there and who's not anymore, has finally confirmed a date for the event after gilt yields spiked, sending UK borrowing costs to their highest level since the late 90s. The budget will take place in November. Reeves says, Britain's economy isn't broken, but I know it's not working well enough for working people. How about for business owners who are getting squeezed? How about for everyone who owns the pubs that are basically unprofitable anymore and that are closing down all across the country? They're not worried about you. Just a heads up. I'm all for helping working people. But a heads up, if you own a business, you've seen pretty clearly they do not care about you. They actively will flaunt that fact. You're in this alone, and you ought to take care of yourself. That's what we help people do. We help people move overseas, lower your taxes, get a residence permit, move your company, structure your assets overseas, open up new bank accounts. That's what we do. Nomadcapitalist.com/apply. Much of the scrutiny faced by Reeves this week was prompted by a Downing Street reshuffle, with Keir Starmer moving Darren Jones over to his number 10. I think it was somebody else who got canned. The article goes on, but Nigel Green from the De Vere Group says markets are making their view brutally clear. Reeves will have no choice but to deliver tough measures, either tax rises, spending cuts, or both, if she wants to prove that Britain's debt can fall in line with fiscal rules. Speculation has been ramping up with rumored property taxes, a particular focus in recent weeks, stamp duty reforms, mansion tax, introduction of national insurance for landlords. Bottom line is, I have not seen anything like it in all of my years reading this stuff. This is what my dad and I talked about around the kitchen table when I was a teenager, is eventually the jig is going to be up for Western countries that thought they had no competition. They think you have nowhere to go. And now that they've maintained that posture basically since the end of the war, finally there is a place for you to go. People are going to Dubai. They're coming here to Malaysia. They're going to Singapore like James Dyson. They're going all over the place. because the UK is broken. It's not just the UK, but I have not seen anything this way. They're taxing you everywhere. You make money through being a landlord, you're screwed. You have a pub, you're screwed. You want to hire people, it's bad times. You want to invest, like they're trying to crack down on everything they possibly can. And so let's go through a couple takeaways from this. Again, they don't care about you. You are not their priority. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you're a landlord, if you're an investor, you can see you're the enemy. And again, not just the UK. How many politicians all around the Western world demonizing landlords, for example, demonizing investors? Number one, tax policy commitments are illusions. That's the first thing you want to think. So first of all, whatever they've told you, they're not obligated to do it. If you and I are in business and we say something wrong, there are consequences. There are none for politicians. And so whatever tax policy commitments Rachel Reeves makes, she's not committed to that. And what you're hearing is mounting financial pressure could have them go back on their word, because the Rachel Reeves of the world still exist in the world where Malaysia is not a place you can move to. Panama is not a place you can move to. These are all places that you look down on. And she still thinks there's no competition and there will never be any consequences. Spend with impunity, piss off the business class. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? Well, they're going. Takeaway number two, wealth taxes and broader asset levies are in the pipeline. They're talking about a 2% wealth tax on certain assets. By the way, everyone says, oh, I don't have 10 million pounds. Well, maybe they value your business. Who knows how they value it? I mean, most European countries have acknowledged wealth taxes failed. I have some art hanging. Do they come and value my art? How do they do it? Well, how desperate are they? That's the equation. You know, people like Warren Buffett say diversification is for fools. Don't diversify. And so people will tell me, well, Andrew, Warren Buffett says don't diversify. Why should I diversify my countries? Why should I move my company to one place on paper? Why should I have my bank account somewhere else? Why should I live in a third place? Because the point is, if you own a business, you have some control over how that business runs, at least until the government gets involved. But when it comes to the taxes that they're going to impose, it's no holds barred. They can do whatever they want. They can change their mind at any time. They can write the rules however they want. And so if you have more than 10 million pounds, you're already in the crosshairs. That number will be lowered over time. By the way, with these rising interest rates, 10 million euros is not going to be worth in 5 years what it's worth today. So there's going to be scope creep, and eventually you're going to fall into their trap. And hopefully you're making more money. Now, I know if you live in the United Kingdom right now, you're probably thinking, why am I bothering to make more money so I can give it all to these creeps? And that's part of the problem as well. That's, I think, one of the benefits if people move to Dubai, for example. They say, everyone here is motivated to make money, so I'm making more money. I'm really going all systems go on my business. Whereas back in, rainy old England, it's not worth it. I'm not keeping my money. It's depressing outside. When you move somewhere else, you're going to be more motivated. You're going to keep more money. You're going to make more money, and you're going to avoid whatever they're going to do. Who knows? 2% wealth tax. And all they ever talk about is how much money it's going to generate for them to spend. They don't talk about it's going to hurt your business. They don't care. Stealth taxation. So things like threshold freezes, what they call fiscal drag. So again, they're keeping certain tax rates at a fixed amount. Well, there's inflation. The UK is having a problem right now with this issue. The economy is not healthy. And so your taxes are going to go up just by default, even if you don't make more money. As you become wealthier, you'll become more and more of a villain, even though perhaps your actual income or wealth has not changed dramatically. Borrowing costs are going to go up. That includes for you. That includes for the government. And so that's going to be bad times for them. History shows, and their own playbook and their own statements show, they're coming for you. Go where you're treated best. That's what we talk about. 16,500 high net worth individuals expected to leave the UK this year. What we have told you, I don't always trust these numbers because there's different measurement standards, but the bottom line is it's a lot. Now, there are more people leaving China. It's a lot bigger country, a lot bigger population as well. But the UK has the biggest net migration of millionaires. What the United States has argued for some time is, yeah, we have some millionaires leaving. People know Nomad Capitalist, even in the U.S. government. And yet people still move to the United States with their millions. A few sad souls from the UK have decided to move to Miami, or so, I don't know why, quite frankly, frying pan into fire or fire into frying pan, depending on how you see it. But the U.S. does have that. Yes, there are still some millionaires moving to the United States. In the UK, it's just it's Snuff City over there. It's people leaving and really nobody coming. So what I suggest is you want to figure out where it is that you want to live if you're going to leave the UK. Do you want to live in one place? Do you want to live in a handful of places? Do you want to travel the world? Depending on how you answer that question, there's going to be a different tax strategy for you for exiting the UK and getting into some other country's tax system. But the good news is, just as Richard Branson has moved to the British Virgin Islands, just as back in the day the Beatles left the UK for tax reasons, that's democratized and it's available to you now. And of course, you can go to Dubai. A lot of people went to Portugal before, and now Portugal is not as tax-friendly. Some people go to Malta or go to Cyprus, and actually European destinations aren't that bad. If you want to get back that European Union passport, you can do so in a country like Cyprus in a very tax-friendly way. You can also do that in Ireland in a tax-friendly way, although we don't see a lot of people from the UK moving to Ireland, even though it's their right to do that because they generally want a bump in weather if they're going to bother moving. As I say, if you're going to move, you might as well move. But you can get an EU passport in a tax-friendly way in a place like Malta or Cyprus in a relatively short period of time. It is as little as 3 years in some cases, 5 years for sure. And so those places are often popular with our British clients, Dubai as well. But I think you ought to look further afield. Malaysia is a place that is English-speaking, and we've had British clients that have come to and really enjoyed. Singapore is generally off limits now, unless you really want to commit a lot of money and time. And you're not going to get citizenship in Singapore the way you would have been able to, let's say, 15 years ago. But there are other places in Southeast Asia. There are places in Latin America. People move to some of the British overseas territories or even within the Channel Islands if you want to stay close to home. The point is you've got a lot of options. And so all these options being considered, the option that you shouldn't have is I'm going to stick around and see if they're going to tax my wealth, increase my property taxes, slap a stamp duty on any real estate transaction I do, increase taxes on my income, classify more things as income, cut out more exemptions, reduce public services, and take great pleasure in doing it, not only due to their sheer incompetence, which we're now seeing, but before that, they were giggling and chuckling about how we're going to go after rich people because the landlords are parasites and entrepreneurs need to be punished. What have I said? I look at things from not only a strategic perspective, and yes, if I'm British at this point, I would like you to have a second passport. I know historically I've said, there's not so much of a rush. I think they're going to do some bad stuff there. It has been so consistent. They don't tax you based on where you're a citizen now. So you can be British and you can leave and you can simply stop paying. I'm not sure they're going to change that, but I wouldn't be sure what else they don't do to you. I want a second passport if I'm British. I'm going to go to one of the Commonwealth countries in the Caribbean and make a donation. I'm going to move somewhere in Europe and just wait it out. I'm going to get a citizenship through my descent if I have parents or grandparents or great-grandparents from somewhere, generally in Europe. I'm going to have that. I want you to have a second passport, but I also want you to move. And that's been my position for a year now. It just keeps getting worse. This is my occasional reminder of how many options that you have. If Dubai doesn't work because it's too hot, you don't have to go to Dubai. In fact, I think too many people move to Dubai because that's kind of the in vogue place that everyone goes now and people follow the herd. What we do here at Nomad Capitalist is we help people legally reduce their taxes, not just by moving to Dubai and hoping for the best, but by looking at all the options. There's a few dozen of them that you can go for tax friendliness and evaluating which one works for you. Where do you want to live? Where are your kids going to go to school? Where are you going to move your company? How does that work? By the way, UAE now has a 9% tax on companies. A lot of people on YouTube think there's some cheap trick you can use to work around that. Most of them don't work. So if you're moving to the UAE, you're committing to paying in the single digits. You could probably pay lower taxes living in a place like Ireland, living in the Caribbean, living in Malaysia. And so you want to consider all the options. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. That's what we help people do. If you have $1 million or more in net worth, or if you make $500,000 or more in income in your business, so obviously those numbers are lower in the pound, we'd be happy to help you figure out your holistic plan of where you're going to go, where you're going to pay taxes, where your bank accounts are going to go when you close those in the UK, if you need to keep access to pounds, which banks you are going to have to keep those pounds, because not every bank has that. There's a lot of things that go into this, including if your customers are in the UK, there's more advanced planning that you need. The company that helps you just set up shop in Dubai is going to help you do all that. They're not going to help you get a second passport, and they're not going to do it all under one roof. So go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. I've been telling you this from day one, going back all the way to 2012. This is going to happen. And now I've issued my own sell rating in the UK. You probably don't want to invest there, and you certainly don't want to live there anymore.